And we're live for episode 22 here on Every Point's a Winner. I'm Axel Phillips. Behind us are the Dolphin colours of red and green. And we couldn't find a bit of white, but you get the idea. They blitzed the leaders of the competition last weekend. It was the first game on the Thursday night, and it was a disgraceful effort from the Bulldogs on behalf of their fans, and quite a few of them turned out as well in atrocious conditions. I think I'd describe it as to the buddies, my NRL buddies, Scott Pearce McLeod and Peter Connors, the Phantom of the Opera House. And so we're celebrating the Dolphins colours in red there in the background. Let's get into the stats for the weekend. A lot of people only got 1 out of 4, 2 out of 4 if they're lucky, maybe 3 out of 4 if they're super lucky, with Parramatta causing an absolute smashing boil over, destroying the Eagles 30-10, 13 plus in the Friday game. And the one that surprised me was the freezing cold Panthers never got out of the deep frost of Lithgow / back of Mount Victoria there past the Blue Mountains in Bathurst, getting thrashed 25-6 by the Newcastle Knights, who pretty much did all the thrashing in the first half. Then we had seemingly another boil over with Roosters at Gosford destroying the Sharks 42-16. And the last match we'll go over was another tough match in torrential rain. We'd pulled our bets down at that stage, and thank God we did, because there was only 3 tries in the whole match. It was a dogged affair in the rain there in the Auckland Stadium, the Warriors Stadium, with Canberra prevailing and moving to second on the competition, 16-10. A big shout out to Steve Lammy, who may be online or he may still be at work, but a big shout out to you, mate. I know you're a massive Canberra Raiders fan. You always have been, and you live and breathe and die for your Raiders. They're doing so well. We tipped the Warriors, and they just lacked that fitness for mine over the last 10 to 15 minutes. It showed you how fit these amazingly strong and young players of Canberra are finally getting that. They've knitted together over the last 2 years with Ricky Stewart really shining this year, and Canberra lifting to a level we haven't seen of consistency before. The buys were Titans, Rabbitohs, Broncos, Cowboys, Storm, Dragons, and West Tigers. Now, because of the State of Origin on Wednesday, I think the first game for round 13 will be Friday night, and I think it's the Dragons and the Newcastle Knights. So that's going to be a very interesting match for St George are finally hitting their straps. And after the weekend, you would think Newcastle have picked up their game significantly. But let's go over the games that we witnessed. And 44 Dolphins destroyed Bulldogs 8 at Epaw Stadium. And let's have a look at I was looking at the stats today at the extended replays in the afternoon, and just have a look at the stats here as we click on it. It was 7 tries to 1. That is a donkey licking. Jermaine Osako, we used Jermaine Osako's still frame of that video where he did that amazing try with his body outside the line of play, but up in the air, and getting that first try over in the 11th minute. Jack Bostock went over in the 38th. Harrison Graham was a surprise for mine, 46th minute. Then Herbie Farnworth, well, he was one of our bankers. He went over in the 63rd minute. Francis Mollo left him out, but the one that really killed me And suck lemons to me was Jake Avarillo. I had a feeling he wouldn't score from because he got put to Hammer's position at fullback, but he scored a great try and egg all over my face, including a lemon in my mouth for leaving Jake Avarillo out. Kurt Donahue has been an outstanding player coming through the ranks, and he went over for the 78th minute try, but it was an absolute slosh pit as far as ball handling was concerned. With the Bulldogs, their errors were horrendous, one after the other. They were nearly mirroring Newcastle Knights for their last month of play. Horrendous. But anyway, at halftime it was 14-8, and most Bulldog supporters and the people who tipped the Bulldogs would have been thinking, well, we're still in this. It's only one converted try, but they never really showed up. And the ball handling was exceptional from the Dolphins. Let's have a look at the possession rate. It was 55% to the Dolphins, 45% to Bulldogs. All runs, meters, phenomenal. Dolphins, 1,513. They played as a hungry unit. And to me, this made the difference. But the stats will also tell some vital points here, what happened. But an extra 500 metres they ran, Dolphins, and it showed. Watching the extended highlights, if anyone watched the game live, I listened to the game live on radio. The kicking metres was 616. Burton put a lot of those torpedo and floaters up in the air, but they didn't make a difference. It just didn't. Truly, the bounce of the ball did not go their way, and even Marnie tried quite a few little grubbers near the in goal. Nothing. They didn't get the run of the green, but they didn't really deserve it. But not one bounce came back into their hands that went their way, bar the Hopoi try, and that was their only Lee Hoi Hoppo went over for Canterbury, the only try scorer. So our little outlay, we had Herbie Farnworth as our banker, but we couldn't get anyone from Canterbury to score. We had Josh Curran, we had Reed Marnie, and he was inches from scoring. So we're a little bit unlucky there. Josh was very close to scoring earlier in the match as well, but it just didn't go their way. Tackles made. This is a big stat. You want to take heed of this one. 411 for Canterbury, and for Dolphins 315. Virtually 100 more tackles Canterbury did. You don't hold the ball. What's the thing you're going to be doing? A lot. Tackling, and they're big boys. They're a big pack Dolphins. They're all muscly giants from the forwards. All these guys are super fit these days, and to me, it really showed in this game. And when things gelled, they gelled. Everything they touched turned to gold. A lot of people are putting, including Scotty, is putting crap on the Bulldogs, saying, yeah, they'll do all right, but they can't win the competition. Well, yeah, I don't think you can go that far, Scotty, but, even PC would agree with me. Can't write them off yet. It's a little bit early. Let's see what happens after Origin, once the series is finished, and when the real meat starts to hit the grinders, and see what happens then, mate. Then you can come out with your outlandish statements. Because I think it's uncalled for that they're as pretenders like Cronulla. We'll talk about that game later, but missed tackles. This is horrendous for Canterbury to be a side that's usually fantastic on defence. 33 missed tackles, Dolphins 13. They aimed up all over the park. But the kicking metres, of course, was more from Burton, but they just didn't get that bounce that they needed. The tackles made, that was significant. 100 tackles, you work it out how many more sets of tackles they had to do. The most tackles in the game was Josh Curran, an absolute work animal. Kurt Donahue for 60. Kurt Donahue, 39. They didn't have to tackle as much, did they? Most run meters, Bronson Cherry, 125. He just didn't get the ball that he needed. Their back line was shot to pieces. Francis Mollo, 146. And congratulations to the Dolphins. They were just outstanding. And Canterbury did not show up. I expected bigger effort from you guys. Yes, okay, you didn't have Steve Crichton and you didn't have your captain. However, there was no excuse considering you guys are supposed to be wet weather football team. So you certainly took a lot of punters down with you. As much as I said to you, take Canterbury 1-12 and take the Dolphins 1-12. We were blown out straight away when it was 13 plus the Dolphins there, and a lot of margin players were. Unless you're a sick Dolphins fan, then you might go the other way with the 13 plus. Let's get on to the second match before I get more angrier with those Bulldogs who did not show up. This one was outstanding as far as our try scorers were concerned, but yet again, Manly didn't show up, and Lehigh Hopewadi, we didn't have him. He was the only one that scored for Manly on the 8th minute and the 28th minute. So, although we had 3 players for Parramatta and 2 players for Manly, they just did not show up. But we did have a scratching in this one. Ben Travojevic was a late omission, and he did not play. So I thought, okay, well, let's see that little guy in the middle. Who are we going to chuck in? So I chucked in Lee Brooks, and there was no answer there. Manly were just disgraceful. In fact, it was 5 tries to 2, 30-10. Who would have ever picked that? You know, I thought it was going to be a rival match of the yesteryears of those incredible 70s. There was a grand final with them in there, wasn't it? Parramatta and Manly, but they've had some great rivalry games over the past, and I thought this was going to be one of them. Josh Samrani, God, he's killed me over Jordan Samrani, playing in the centres, he killed me over the last couple of weeks. And he scored his debut try last week, in fact, and he's gone over again. But thank God Jack Williams, who I had a real strong feeling for, he got our money back and put us at least 20 or 30 in front, owing to none of our doubles coming through. Jermaine Hopgood, I have been entertaining. I've been telling you how good a player Hopgood is. I wish I would have said, okay, screw Manly. I'm going to put another player in for Parramatta because it would have been him. But Jack Williams, thank God, went over in the 36th minute. Iongi, we had him, but we had him in a mixed combo. We didn't quite have him with Jack Williams. I did have him in a 3-leg parlay with Williams, Iongi, and it was probably Lee Brooks or Travojevic. And he didn't have a very good game. Although he didn't have the strapping on his leg, he was still limping around. He needs some time away, Turbo. He just has not been himself with that what do you want to call it, a semi-leg injury. It's a leg injury, but he's playing through the pain and obviously a lot of painkillers. So anyway, let's see what the halftime score was. It was 16-10. So really, as a punter, you would think, well, Manly's not out of this yet. But, geez, they really played for a good 70 to 75 minutes, Parramatta, and really played well. Let's look at the key stats as I have a sip of water here. Lemon water. This time of the year when it's cold, you really do want to have your lemon and keep your vitamin C up. So the possession rate was 49%. So it was pretty much 50-50 down the middle, 51 to Manly, 49 to Parramatta. All runs meters here, 1,884 Parramatta. They really threw the ball around and played so well. All runs meters for run meters for Manly was only 1,777. Kicks, 26 to Parramatta, although without Mitchell Moses, that was the question, wasn't it? But I did tell you Dylan Brown would not go over, would not score without Moses. When Moses is in the side, of course, he's there for Origin duties this coming Wednesday, which is tomorrow's Tuesday, only 2 days away from Origin. But without Moses, he has to play a slightly different role, and he doesn't have that freedom. So 26 kicks to 20, even there. Kicking metres fairly even as well, 20 metres more to Parramatta. Missed tackles, 27 to Manly, pretty even. 25, a little bit less for Parramatta. Tackles made, 350 Parramatta, 368 Manly. So Riley Smith working out a dummy half there, 55 tackles. Jazz Tavaga, a great defender, not such a great attacker, but he tackles his heart out at 50. Top tackles for Manly. Most run meters, Isaiah Iongi, 265. Lehigh Hopewadi, 263 for Manly and 265 for Iongi for Parramatta. Most line breaks, 2 for Lee Hopewadi, and 2 of them resulted in tries. And Iongi, his line break also resulted in a try. So congratulations, Parramatta, finally to win without Moses. Well done there. You were the much better side. I don't know what happened to Manly. Everything just went wrong. They probably played that much better than the Bulldogs, but I expected better from Manly, so they need to be winning at this time of the year, considering Turbo was on the pitch, but he's not himself. If you haven't worked that out yet. Garrick, I thought, had an ordinary game. It was just a game that Parramatta you could see they were hungry. Even the Williams try was fantastic. He's played so good since he came to Parramatta from the Sharks. So well done, son. You're doing exceptionally well. Let's go over to the next match, and it was surprisingly the Knights. Probably the 2 best Knight players were Dylan Lucas, who nearly scored 4 tries. Or was it 5? We'll have to have a look here. Yeah, he nearly scored 4 tries. There was one that was disallowed. Yeah. And Fletcher Sharp with his mace and chain. Fletcher Sharp there, outstanding. When I was looking at the replay, the extended highlights, he looks so much like Brett Kenny facially. But and hopefully he can get to Brett Kenny's level, but he's the speed. He was fantastic from out of dummy half there, and really, were you surprised to see him go over? In any case, the one we didn't have as anytime try scorer in our small doubles, I started really panicking as the rain set in New Zealand, and the game after the Friday game and Bulldogs played so bad, I halved a lot of my bets. Hopefully you did as well. So we didn't have a total washout like some of the fields that they were playing on. Harrison Hassett, congratulations. He was the only try scorer there for a hapless Penrith side. I honestly, you had, 6, 7 players out, but the players that were in there were still part of your grand final side. I expected a bit more from you, Penrith. Penny Panthers, they just did not show up, and good to see Bathurst turn out to get a full crowd there in the freezing cold conditions. But Lucas went over in the 9th, 11th, and 23rd, and I think he nearly went over in about the 32nd. Fletcher Sharp was the first try score on the 4th, and Hassett went over in the 57th. Conversions 4 out of 4 for Dane Gagai. Gagai is a part-time kicker. He hasn't kicked for such a long time, and he kicked a couple of crackers. So well done, Dane Gagai, fantastic. I was sort of hoping you'd go over, especially for your what was it, your anniversary game there a week ago or so. Cogger got a field goal to make it unreachable and put it up to 25 points. And to looking at the sin bins here, there was only one there for Liam Henry. I think it might have been a professional foul there. Half-time was 24-0, so they only scored the 1 point in the second half. And Panthers, they should have, according to Coach Adam O'Brien, he thinks that their defence was fantastic in that second half because they really held up Fletcher Sharp a couple of times, Dylan Lucas, and a few other players that burst over. I think one of them was Brodie Jones, and they held them up. And so the defence, it could have been much worse if it wasn't for those good defenders from Penrith, but they certainly didn't defend and mark Dylan Lucas enough in that first half. The possession went 54% to the Knights, 46 to Penrith. All run meters, 2,125 for the Knights. They ran around the park everywhere, 1,751 for the Panthers. Kicking meters, 597 to 590, pretty much the same. Let's have a look here. Tackles made, 361 for Knights, 435. Virtually another 60 plus, nearly 70 extra tackles made for the Panthers, and that's why they were gassed. Missed tackles. This is so unlike Penrith. 50. I think a lot of those would have been in the first half to 27 Newcastle. Usually, so far, what we've seen from Newcastle this season, those figures are totally in the reverse there. Most tackles, Lindsay Smith. We did have him to go over, and unfortunately he didn't. Most tackles there, 53. Phoenix Crossland finally had a better game than what he's been having, 48. Fletcher Sharp, 272. Most run meters. Had a phenomenal game. Casey McLean, 194. We had him as well. Just couldn't get those players we had. Lindsay Smith, Casey McLean. We couldn't get that second leg into Dylan Lucas. But anyway, hopefully you picked up Lucas. I think he was about 7 and 2, $3.50. So as I said, we halved our bets and got a little bit of money back for Dylan Lucas. But in the end, it was a very, very disheartening, excuse me for a minute, a very disheartening effort from the Penny Panthers. The next match, it was the second last we're going to go over here before we wrap up tonight in episode 22. It was Roosters, who Scotty and I tipped. I think Peter went for Sharks, and Sharks yet again did not show up. It was Roosters from the outset, from the third minute, an amazing try from Daniel Tupou. Aerial ping pong up like AFL for the first two tries in the third and the 10th minute. Karen McGuinness, that hurt us for our double because we did have Mark Nawana-Takawazi into our as our banker, and we had, who else did we have with it? We had the two Smiths, if you remember. We had Sandon Smith and Billy Smith. Oh, Sanders Smith missed the try line by that far. He had to drive his legs a little bit more, but it was a great tackle to stop him. Just excuse me for a minute. For some reason, the nose started running again. It tends to happen at this time of the year. Keep your lemons up, guys. But another great game from the Wakatanawazi there, and he played out exceptionally well. Tedesco had a phenomenal game, scored in the 76th minute. I was tossing and turning. Should I put him in? Should I put him in? And Dominic Young, as I said, was the last minute to put him in, but we needed the Smiths. And we had Kyle Ero, so we got one double there into Mark Nawazi, and then Ronald Molatala. He was very skinny, one of the favourites. We didn't have him. He went over in the 67th minute for the Sharks. Sanders Smith was very good with the kicking, 6 out of 7, and Nicholas Hines 2 from 3. They served it up to Hines, I thought. Sin Bins, Molatello, I think, did that professional foul near the end of the game. And halftime it was Roosters 20, Cronulla 6. But they never really got into it at any stage. I thought they were so disappointing. Possession was 50-50 down the line. All run meters, 1,564 for Cronulla, 1,702 for the Roosters. 20 kicks to 18. It was a fairly even match on these on these stats. Excuse me again. Stop, nose, stop. Nice lemon there. We'll have that when we finish. Tackles made. Kicking meters was 445 and 469. Hardly anything in it. Tackles made 311 and 310. Pretty much down the line again. Missed tackles a little bit more for Cronulla, 33 and 28 for the Roosters. I think they were just much more hungrier. The Roosters, they came with venom, and when I made the tip, I thought they were going to play like that. Considering Tedesco didn't make the cut for the Origin, you can't put all. It's like on roulette wheel. You can't have all the numbers. You can't cover them all. And you can't, we've got so many great players in the NRL, you can't put them all in there. But that's what I was thinking when I made my selection for the Roosters to beat Cronulla, was Tedesco's going to have another blitzkrieg game, and yet he did. The most tackles, Su'a Wong, 36 for East, 40 Blake Brayley. Every week, it's either him or McGuinness that's leading the top tackle count there. James Tedesco, most run meters, 195. Well, that just solidifies my point that I'm making. 189, Kale Ero, fantastic player, has scored at every match that he's played, because he was injured for a couple of weeks too. 2 line breaks to Kale Ero and 2 to Dominic Young. One of those ended up in a try. Blake Steep played very well the time that he was on there. And he got the most fantasy points, but we're not doing fantasy on our league here at the moment. So it was just an absolute bashing of the Sharks from the Roosters with their little beaks. But it was more like over the Sharks. Okay, let's get on to the last match. This was when I heard Luke Lewis on ABC radio saying how wet it was, and it was torrential. I quickly went next door to the club and I had a look at the start of the match, and it was that mad downpour. And I checked the weather. So I went to put my bets and I hesitated, and I waited and waited and waited, and I pulled back. I thought, no, we'd lost from those 2 games because of Manly. and Manly and Cronulla, and I thought, no, that's enough. I think we were just behind over the weekend because we got a couple of guys, nice try scorers, including that 8-1 try score with Jack Williams. But our doubles were a bit shattered. I reckon a lot of it was down to the weather, and that Canterbury game. Well, that was horrible. It was 16 Canberra over Warriors 10. For most of the match, Warriors led narrowly, and then it was all penalty goals in the middle of because points were at a scarcity. And if we have a look here, it was only Roger Tuivasa Sheck who we did pick, but he was very skinny to go over. Jamal Fogarty was the value there. I think he was about 450, and Tom Starling was about the same. So, had you have the bravery to go for those two players, Starling's been outstanding this year for Canberra. Outstanding. His work ethic and Fogarty as well. What a shame he's going to Manly, is he not? What a shame he's going there. You can't keep them all. You cannot keep um, your full side because you have the salary cap, and that makes a big difference. Luke Metcalf here, I had him as the banker, of course, but we didn't put it. We didn't put any bets on that. I'd had enough at that stage. I really thought those conditions were going to make hardly any tries, and I was dead set right. One try, two tries to one. What a dogged match it was. Back and forth, drop ball, back and forth, knock on, drop ball. But it was still enjoyable. It was as tough as hell. You had to be as tough as teak to be out there in those conditions. Strange looked like he was going to go over between the posts. He was another one of our bankers, Ethan Strange. I think those players that do that type of game and burst over from when they're only little blokes like he's still strong, Strange, but I think they need a drier pitch, and so we're a bit unlucky with our tips there. But hopefully, if you had your tips, that you abstracted something out of that game. But I'm glad I pulled the sheet down on that game. Let's have a look at there was many sin bins. One to Corey Horsburgh in the 27th minute, Tom Starling in the 77th minute. Well, that was a nice early shower for Tom. And Charles Nickel Clockstad, I think there was a professional foul involved there in the 58th minute. At half time, it was 8-all, so there's nothing in it. This was the game of the round. Just it was ruined by the horrible weather in Auckland. And penalty goals. Look at that, two each. Two penalty goals from two Luke Metcalf and two from Jamal Fogarty. Anything else to note there? It was two tries to one, so truly the best side won for mine. Warriors were lacking fitness to go the full 80 minutes, and Canberra sensed that. That's how I felt watching the replay and listening to the game. I sensed that they were always going to come over the top, and which they did. So there you go. Looking at some other stats from the game. Possession, 52% to Canberra, 48 to Warriors. All-run meters, 1647, a little bit more for Canberra, 1617 for the Warriors. Kicks, 21-19 in favour of Canberra. Kicking meters, 577. Warriors kicked the ball a lot more. Canberra, 458. They just went up the middle a lot, didn't they? When they saw that they were getting fatigued in the middle there, the Warriors. Tackles made, 367 to the Warriors and only 355 to Canberra Raiders. Missed tackles, 34 to Warriors and 30 to Canberra. Most tackles, Joseph Tarpany, A fantastic game, I thought, from him. The whole entire team played so well, Canberra. I thought even when KO Wiggs threw his body at Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, but Tuivasa-Sheck got the ball and scored backwards on his back, touching the ball down for that first try. He is just a freak of nature. I don't know anyone that starts as skinny as him every time he's not injured. Every time he plays, he's always $1.65, $1.85, because he's such a prolific try scorer. Probably one of the most prolific try scorers in the game today. Excuse me for a minute. It's damn runny nose. It's plagued me for the whole week. And I think tomorrow we're going to have a lot of rain. Luckily, the game is not in Sydney on Wednesday, because we're going to seemingly have a really howling winds tomorrow. So don't leave anything out on your balcony. Don't leave things that can be thrown around or blown away, because it's going to be really strong winds tomorrow, according to the forecast. Most line breaks, Charles Nickel-Klopstad won. Tamale on the wing there, one for him. He was the most run meters too, Tamale, 213. And Jackson Ford, oh, how he didn't score. Was great defence, line defence there from Canberra. But I thought they really, really played well as a team. I'm most impressed with Joseph Tarpany. He's an absolute dog when it comes to giving 100% all the time. And there you go. That's the wrap up for episode 22. It was round 12. I think this week there's only 3 teams with the bye, but those games do not start. Excuse me. Those games do not start until Friday. So let's have a quick look at the origin here. Who do you think will win? A lot of the favourite tipsters and punters are saying at $1.65, New South Wales should win this first one. I have my reservations, because as soon as you write off the champion Queensland side, you can get egg on your face, even though on paper, excuse me again, even on paper you think, God, they're going to be hard to beat. The interesting thing, that combination with Moses and Cleary, because he hasn't had an outstanding season with his hapless last place Panthers, that's my query. That is my query with this origin. I mean, we've got some outstanding players. Mitchell, to me, is also a query. Can you afford to have his brilliance on one hand, doing a piece of magic, but then totally stuffing up? I mean, look at his last game. Apasai Coruscant stood him up twice. Yes, we know he's brilliant and he can be a game turner, but what if he turns it and does something that's horrendous? But anyway, hopefully they've sorted it all out. I am worried whether Cleary and Moses are going to have the combination. For it to click so quickly, that is the question for me. So I'm not going to make my selection at this stage. I'm going to get the feel of the game, see if there's any late changes. And Wednesday, yeah, we might just post up our tips and our anytime try scorers. I can't wait for the game anyway on Wednesday, and then we'll have that little break on Thursday, and then of course we'll be having that first game with Newcastle Knights and St George on the Friday. So we might be able to slip up a program on Thursday and go over the what is there? There's a few more games than last week. I think there's 3 on the Sunday. Just have a look. I'll have a look at it in a second, but just have a look here. Tom Dearden interchange um, for Queensland. Watson interchange for New South Wales. I'm not convinced Watson's as good as Tom Dearden, to be honest with you, at this stage. I could be wrong. Spencer Lemieux, well, he's just an animal. Hudson Young, to me, is New South Wales' best interchange. But this is his game to shine if he's going to. Kurt Mann for Queensland, I'd like to see him get a run at some stage. He's been outstanding this year for the Bulldogs. And Tino Fa'asamoali, let's see how he goes there, facing up against the legend of Payne Haas for New South Wales. That's very interesting. Munster versus Moses. Yeah, it's something to get really excited about. Robert Toyer, who is a good defender, but the experience of Steve Crichton, I would love to see Crichton stand him up. But anyway, I'm sure he's going to get a bit of support there, Robert Toyer. And Coates against Brian To'o. I know what Scotty will be tipping on Wednesday for his anytime try scorer. Dylan Edwards versus Caleb Palmer. To me, that's a great match. That's a great match. And I'm nearly leaning towards Queensland. I can't see a clean sweep, a 3-0 for either side. I can see it going to 3. And I'm worried whether this is the game where everyone expects New South Wales to win it and Suncorp show up and there's people standing outside the ground. They can't even get in the ground because it's after the last year's series. I just have a feeling I'm having that little knock on my intuition saying be careful tipping against Queensland here. But anyway, I'll just quickly head off here to back to the normal Telstra Premiership. Yeah, so the first match is Friday. So hopefully, if we can't get our tips out to you by Thursday morning, we'll do a Friday morning podcast and give you our anytime try scorers. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it's going to be better conditions this week because it was so unlucky last weekend with the 4 or 5 games. Very, very unlucky. And the tips, they were difficult. A lot of people only got 2 out of 4 or 1 out of 4. So in any case, guys, all the best until we meet again after the Origin. I'm so torn between both sides. Of course, being a mad Newcastle Knights fan, I'd like to see Caleb Ponga play outstanding as well. But there's a lot of players I love for New South Wales. Being a New South Welshman myself, I should be tipping New South Wales. But I need to just get a feel for the game on Wednesday. All right, guys. So next weekend we have, quickly before I go, Saints versus Knights on Friday. On the Saturday at 3 o'clock daytime, Storm Titans are hosting the Storm. Then we have Cowboys at 5:30. Cowboys hosting the West Tigers up there in Townsville. That's going to be a tough match. Cowboys played awful last game. Eagles need to redeem themselves here on Saturday also. That's the last match at 7:35. It's Eagles at Four Pines Park hosting Broncos. Oh, that's a 50-50 game, that one as well. Then Sunday, the last 3 games, surprisingly 3 games. 2 o'clock, Rabbitohs versus Warriors. That's going to be an interesting game at Accor Stadium. Hopefully the weather's better, but Souths aren't too bad in the weather, are they? Not at all. Panthers, last place Panthers up against Eels. That's going to be really interesting at Combank. Hey, Panthers have got a shocking record away from Panthers Park or Panther Stadium, which they're redoing at the moment. And let's have a look here. And the last match is Roosters versus Canberra. I think that's going to be basically one of the games of the round there at 6:15 on the Sunday at Allianz Stadium. All right, guys. So the Bulldogs, Sharks, and Dolphins get their bye, and honestly, Bulldogs. Hopefully, them and Serraldo can go back to the drawing board and work out the fundamental errors of what happened last weekend. Until we meet again, best of Origin, and we'll see you again on Every Point's a Winner. Thanks for joining us. Please like, subscribe. If you dislike, write it in the like column or in the comment column. Comment, try and get it shared with your friends. If you're NRL punters, we've given you so much value this year. At least 5 or 6 out of the last 7 weeks, we've done better than average to exceptional. At least 4 of those weeks we were exceptional, and were a bit unlucky last week. We didn't lose too much. So let's make amends this weekend. And all the best to your punting. All the best to your. May the best side win on Wednesday. God bless. God bless. God prevail. Hopefully the referees let the game flow a little bit without being ridiculous. Hopefully they put the whistle away in the pocket once they get those initial State of Origin nerves out the way. Okay, guys, for now, it's Axel Phillips. Thanks for joining me. Like, subscribe, and comment, and share. Until next time, bye.